My breaking point wasn't loud. It wasn't a scream or a slammed door or a dramatic announcement in front of my entire family. It was a whisper. A tiny, almost invisible moment no one else noticed, except me. And it was enough to crack everything. It happened the night my boyfriend stood in my mother's living room, wearing a suit he didn't pay for and a smile he didn't earn, while my older brother handed him a champagne glass and called him part of the family. Part of the family. Meanwhile I, the actual daughter, the one who helped raise that same brother while mom worked night shifts, was still treated like the unreliable one. The emotional one. The one who should be grateful people put up with her moods. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start with this. My name is Riley. I'm 25 years old. And 3 months ago, the people I loved most tried to quietly push me out of the only home I ever had, while smiling in my face the entire time. The worst part? My boyfriend helped them. And I didn't see any of it coming. It started with my brother, Liam, coming back from London. He's the star in our family. Tall, charming, charismatic, the oldest son who moved abroad at 21 and built a life that looked perfect on Instagram. Fancy job, fancy clothes, fancy friends. I loved him. He was my brother. But he always treated me like someone he had grown out of, like an old jacket you keep in the closet because you feel guilty throwing it away. He texted me the day before he landed. Be ready tomorrow. Big night planned. That was it. No details. Typical Liam. I told my boyfriend, Adam, that my family was doing a welcome dinner for Liam and asked if he'd come with me. He said of course, a little too quickly. Adam was good-looking in that soft, boy-next-door way. Kind eyes. Calm voice. A little too agreeable sometimes. But after my last relationship, agreeable felt like safety. I thought he was solid. Safe. Good. If you had asked me back then whether he'd ever betray me, I would have laughed. Funny how wrong you can be about the people who sleep beside you. My mother's house was full when we arrived. Music playing. Food everywhere. The hum of overlapping conversations. Liam holding court in the center of the room like a king returning from war. My mother saw Adam before she saw me, another red flag I ignored. Adam. You're here. She said, hugging him warmly. Then she glanced at me over his shoulder and added, oh. You too. I pretended not to notice. Adam didn't notice at all. Or so I thought. Inside the kitchen, Liam grabbed Adam by the shoulders like old friends, though they had met twice. Here he is, he said loudly. The man of the hour. I blinked. The man of the hour? For my brother's welcome dinner? Adam laughed awkwardly. I squeezed his arm, confused. My mother leaned in close to Liam, smiling as she topped off Adam's wine glass. He's perfect, she whispered. Don't mess this up. Mess what up? Before I could ask, my aunt walked in with a cake box and announced. Time for the surprise. Everyone gathered in the living room. My mother dimmed the lights. Liam stood beside Adam. My stomach dropped. Then my aunt lifted the lid of the cake box, and my heart nearly stopped. On the cake, written in blue icing, were the words. Welcome to the family, Adam. Future son-in-law. My blood ran cold. I hadn't told anyone I was getting engaged. Because I wasn't. Adam froze too, but not in the way I expected. Not surprise. Not confusion. Something else. Something guilty. My mother put her arm around him and said. We're all so happy you talked to Liam. This is such a big step. My breath caught. Talked to Liam? About what? I looked at Adam. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Liam clapped him on the back. Don't worry, man. She'll say yes. And even if she doesn't, Mom and I will talk her around. Talk me around? Talk me into, what? My mother lifted her champagne glass and announced, "To the engagement news." A cheer went up. I did not move. I did not smile. I asked quietly, "Adam, what is this?" He finally looked at me, eyes glossy, apologetic, panicked. "Riley, I meant to tell you. Your family," they said. He didn't finish. Because Liam cut in. He asked for our blessing. My mouth went dry. Blessing? Blessing for what? I asked Adam again, my voice barely audible. "Did you ask my brother if he could approve an engagement?" He swallowed hard. "Your mom said you'd want your family involved. That you'd be happy." Happy? Happy about my family planning my engagement without me? Happy about Adam going behind my back to Liam instead of talking to me? The room spun. But the worst part wasn't the cake. It wasn't the announcement. It wasn't that my own family had staged an engagement I didn't agree to. It was what happened next. My mother slipped her arm around my shoulder and said quietly, so quietly only I could hear, "We're doing this for your own good, Riley. Before you screw this one up too. Before I screw this one up too." As if Adam was a project they were managing. As if I was a liability they needed to contain. As if my own relationship wasn't mine. And Adam? He didn't deny it. Didn't say he wanted to talk to me first. Didn't say he disagreed. He let them treat me like a problem. A guest. A complication. Not a daughter. Not a sister. Not a partner. A burden. In that split second, I understood something terrifyingly simple. This wasn't my engagement. It was my intervention. And I wasn't the woman they were celebrating. I was the woman they were saving Adam from. I pulled away from my mother so sharply she blinked. I didn't shout. Didn't throw anything. Didn't make a scene. I just said, "Adam. Outside. Now." The room quieted as we stepped toward the door. My mother whispered to Liam, "Brace yourself. She's about to ruin this." The word ruin ricocheted inside me. Outside, on the porch under the weak glow of the porch light, Adam tried to speak. I raised a hand. "Just tell me the truth." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Your mom and Liam called me 2 weeks ago." My breath hitched. 2 weeks ago? He continued. "They said you needed stability. That you'd been struggling. Struggling. Like I was some fragile project requiring supervision. They said," he went on, "that if I really cared about you, I'd talk to them about proposing. That it would mean a lot to your family." I stared at him, the cold night air slicing through me. "And you agreed? Without talking to me?" His face crumpled. "Riley, I just wanted to make them happy. I thought it would help things." Help what? Help convince my own family that loving me wasn't a mistake? Help them control my life more? Help them keep me in a shape that was more convenient for them? I asked. "Did you tell them you weren't ready?" He hesitated. And in the hesitation I understood everything. He hadn't told them he wasn't ready. He had told them he was. He was ready. To be with my family. Not necessarily with me. Everything between us spun into sudden clarity, like a camera lens finally focusing. Adam wasn't choosing me. He was choosing the life my family promised him. The version of me they curated. Not the real me. Not the complicated, messy, deeply feeling person I was. The silence stretched. He whispered. "I didn't want to lose this." Lose, what? Me? Or them? I stepped back. And then I said the sentence that ended everything. "If you had wanted a life with me, you would have asked me. Not them." He flinched like I had slapped him. I turned toward the door. My mother and Liam were standing inside, watching through the window like it was a show. I felt something crack. Not break. Crack. Open. Something inside me that had been quiet for years finally stood up. The girl they thought they could control was gone. The woman I actually was, the one they underestimated, stepped forward. I walked back inside, calm, steady, uncaring who was watching, and said, "The engagement you planned? It's not happening." Gasps. Whispers. A dropped glass. My mother looked furious. Liam looked stunned. Adam looked devastated. But not devastated enough to run after me. And right then, I understood. This wasn't the final betrayal. Not even close. Because the real secret, the one that would blow my entire life open, was still hiding in that house. Waiting. And I was about to find it. I wish I could tell you that everything exploded right there in the living room, that people shouted and stormed out and someone finally took my side. That would at least have felt honest. Instead, it went quiet in that awful way where everyone is pretending nothing just happened while their eyes say everything. My mother's smile froze on her face like a mask. She tightened her grip on her champagne glass and said in a very calm, very controlled voice that I was tired and emotional and that everyone should just give me a minute to process. She said that I had always struggled when things were changing, that it was not my fault, and that Adam should not take it personally. So now I was not only ungrateful, I was unstable too. Convenient. Liam tried to joke that this was classic Riley, that I had always hated surprises and always overthought everything, and that I just needed to remember how good I had it. He said Adam was a catch, that most women would kill to have someone like him. Adam just stood there, holding the glass with future son-in-law written on the cake in front of him, eyes shining with a humiliation he did not hide well. For a minute, I almost did what I always did. I almost apologized to everyone at once, smoothed everything over, tried to make myself smaller so their discomfort could fade. But there was something different this time. It was like my anger had grown bones. I said that I was not tired, I was not confused, and I was not saying maybe. I was saying no. I said that if Adam had wanted to propose, he could have done it to my face, not through a committee led by my mother. I said that no one gets to arrange my future like a seating chart. A couple of my cousins looked away, like I was doing something inappropriate by asserting authority over my own life. My mother murmured that we would talk about this later and asked everyone to sit down so dinner could be served, as if she could plate chicken over this crater and call it a night. I did not sit down. I told her I was leaving. She asked where I was going, like that was the shocking part. I said home. She asked if I was really going to abandon my brother's welcome dinner and embarrass the family in front of Adam like that. I said that forcing an ambush engagement was embarrassing enough. Liam stepped forward then, putting on his peacemaker voice. He said that I should not blow this out of proportion, that most people would be happy their boyfriend wanted to make things official. He said that after everything my family had done for me, the least I could do was show some gratitude. There it was again. Gratitude as a leash. I asked him quietly what exactly they had done for me in the last few years besides talk about me like I was a bomb they were constantly trying to defuse. I reminded him that I was the one who had stayed when our dad died, that I was the one who had worked 2 jobs so mom did not lose the house, that I was the one who had taken the bus across town at midnight because mom called crying over some bill she could not cover. My mother told me not to bring up old things. Old things, like the years I spent patching holes in this family so she could pretend we were fine. She said that this was exactly why she and Liam had felt they needed to step in. That it was obvious I did not know what was good for me. That if they did not take the initiative, I would drift forever, ruining every relationship I touched. The words made my skin prickle. She said that Adam was stability, and that if I walked away from this, I had no one to blame but myself when I ended up alone. Everyone watched me, waiting to see if the old me would surface, the one who swallowed things down and made jokes and made sure everyone else felt okay. She did not. I put my glass down on the nearest surface. I told them very calmly that any decision about my life that did not include me in the conversation was not a gift, it was an intrusion. I told Adam that I needed space and that I did not want him to come home with me that night. I told my mother that if she ever staged another intervention about my life without me, she would succeed in her mission to push me away, just not in the direction she wanted. Then I walked out. No dramatic door slam. No wailing. Just quiet. Adam did not follow me onto the porch. That told me more than any long speech could have. The cold air hit my face like a slap. I walked to the end of the street before I realized my hands were shaking. My phone buzzed. Adam sent a message asking if I was okay and saying that my mother and Liam had only meant well, that he had gone along with it because he thought I would appreciate the gesture. I stared at the screen and thought about all the times he had told me he loved how independent I was, how he admired me for surviving so much. And yet, when my family framed me as a fragile thing that needed managing, he had believed them. I put the phone in my pocket and kept walking until the house was out of sight. On the bus home, the shock wore off and left something raw behind. It was not just the messed up engagement. It was what it revealed, that my mother and my brother saw me as someone their guests needed to be protected from, not as someone worth protecting. Back in my apartment, I locked the door and sat on the floor with my back against it, knees pulled to my chest. For the first time in a long time, I considered the possibility that staying in their orbit was costing me more than it was giving. The next day I waited for my mother to call. She did not. Liam sent a message saying that Mom was very upset and that I owed her an apology. My aunt texted privately to check if I was okay and to say that she had thought the cake was too much, but that family was family and I should try to see it from my mother's perspective. No one asked if anyone had tried to see it from mine. Adam sent a longer message later that day. He wrote that he had not meant to blindside me, that he had assumed my family knew me, that he had thought he was doing something romantic. He wrote that he loved me, that he wanted a future together, that he could not understand why I was throwing it away over the way it was presented. That phrase made something inside me go very still. For him, this was all about packaging. For me, it was about consent. The next few days were a blur of going through the motions at work while my brain replayed everything over and over, like my mind was trying to find a version of the events that hurt less. There wasn't one. On the third day, Liam showed up at my apartment unannounced. He knocked in that pattern he had used since we were kids. I opened the door before I could talk myself out of it. He walked in like he still lived there, looking around with that half-amused, half-judgmental expression he always had in my spaces. He asked if that was really the couch I had chosen. He asked if I ever planned to upgrade. He asked why it always smelled like coffee and candles. I did not offer him a drink. He sat down and started talking without waiting for permission. He said that Mom was still shaking from the other night. That she felt humiliated. That she had just wanted to do something special for me. That I had made her look foolish in front of everyone. He said that Adam had been crushed. That most guys would have walked away already. That the fact that he was still willing to try proved he was serious. That if I let this go, I would regret it. I asked him at what point he had decided it was his job to negotiate my love life. He waved that off. He said that this was bigger than me. That if I married Adam, Mom would not have to worry about me anymore. That I would finally have stability like he did. That maybe then he could stop sending money when things got tight for her. The mention of money made my ears ring. I asked him what he meant. He paused, as if realizing he had said more than he intended. He covered quickly and said that London was expensive and he had been helping out where he could. He said that Mom had been under a lot of stress since Dad died, that it took all three of them to keep things afloat. All three of them. He did not include me in that equation. When I pointed it out, he said that I barely made enough to cover my own bills, that no one expected me to carry the same weight. I reminded him that I had carried Mom emotionally for years, that I had taken on Dad's role in the house long before he ever moved to London. He told me this was not about counting contributions, and that it was ugly of me to do that. Then he said something that finally made the pieces shift into a pattern. He said that Mom was looking at maybe selling the house in a few years and that if I married Adam, they could feel better about doing that because they would know I was taken care of elsewhere. He said that with Adam's salary and mine combined, we would be fine. I asked him slowly what exactly they were planning with the house. He shrugged in that way people do when they know they are about to lie. He said nothing was set in stone, that it was just talk, that Mom had been discussing some paperwork to make things simpler later, but that it was all boring legal stuff and I would not understand. My skin crawled. Growing up, any time adults wanted to hide something from me, they had said that. That I would not understand. Maybe 10-year-old me would not. 25-year-old me did. They were planning something with the house that did not involve me. I asked him if Mom had changed the will. His eyes flicked away for a fraction of a second. He said that Dad had left everything to her, that it was her right to do what she wanted, that she was just trying to avoid complications. I suddenly had a flashback to being 16 and overhearing Dad telling Mom in the kitchen that he wanted to make sure both kids were looked after if something happened to him. He had said both. I remembered that clearly. He had squeezed my shoulder when he said it. Liam got up to leave, clearly feeling like he had delivered the older brother lecture and could now return to his more important life. At the door he said that he hoped I would think carefully before throwing away a man who was willing to commit to me despite everything. Despite everything. As if I was damaged goods he was getting at a discount. After he left, I sat at my table and let the resentment rise all the way up. Not the petty kind. The righteous kind. The kind you get when you realize you have been subsidizing other people's comfort with your own silence for years. I decided then that if my family was making plans about the house, I wanted to see for myself. The next day, on my lunch break, I took a bus to the law office whose name I knew from the envelope I once saw on the kitchen counter after Dad's funeral. I walked into the reception area, heart pounding, and asked if I could speak to someone about my father's will. The receptionist asked my name, typed it in, then went still for a second in that way people do when something unexpected appears on their screen. She said she would see if one of the attorneys was free. A man in his 50s came out to meet me. He had kind eyes and a tired posture, like someone who had seen a lot of messy families and knew this might be another one. He led me into his office and asked what he could help with. I told him my father's name, the date he died, our home address. He nodded, looked up the file, and confirmed that yes, their office had handled the original will. Then he hesitated and said that my mother had been the executor and that any information would normally go through her. I said calmly that my mother and I were not aligned right now and that as my father's child, I had a right to know whether I had been included at all. He studied my face for a moment, then turned the screen slightly toward me. My father's will was simple. He had left the house to be divided equally between his two children upon my mother's passing, with the instruction that she could live there as long as she wanted. There, in black and white, was my name and Liam's, side by side. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. Relief, because I had not imagined Dad's promise. Anger, because if this was still the legal standing, what was my mother trying to do? Then the attorney said something else. He said that 6 months ago, my mother had inquired informally about transferring ownership in advance, perhaps placing the property solely in Liam's name, but that nothing formal had been filed yet. She had said she wanted to keep things simple and avoid disputes. Simple, by erasing me. I thanked him, got a copy of the relevant parts of the will emailed to me, and walked out into the afternoon light feeling like I was floating slightly above my own life. On the bus back to work, my phone buzzed. It was a series of messages from Adam. He wrote that he missed me, that he wanted to see me, that he understood why I was upset, that he thought we could still salvage things if we sat down with my family and had a calm discussion like adults. Like adults. As if the cake and the secret calls and the house paperwork were the actions of grown, respectful people. I did not respond. I needed to think, really think, without my family's voices filling up all the space in my head. That night, I sat on my floor with my laptop open and my father's will on the screen. Seeing my name there, written formally, in legal language as someone entitled to something concrete, did something strange to my heart. All my life, I had felt like my place in our family was conditional, given when I was useful, taken away when I made things uncomfortable. Here, for once, was something that said, "You are not imaginary. You are not an add-on. You were meant to be part of this." I thought about Dad. About the way he had held my shoulder when he told me I could always come home. About the way he had pushed Liam to chase his dreams but had also told me, quietly, that my dreams mattered too, even if they were smaller and less flashy. And I thought about Mom, standing in that living room with the cake, calling in ambush control. Talking about me like a project. The next day, I called her. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was cool, polite, like we were two people cautiously feeling out a business negotiation. I said that I had been to the lawyer's office. Silence hummed on the line. She asked why I would do that. I said I wanted to understand where I actually stood, since she and Liam had been throwing around phrases like simplicity and stability. She sighed in that overdramatic way and said that I was making things more complicated than they needed to be. She said that the will was old, that Dad had not known how things would turn out, that Liam lived abroad and needed certainty, that I was always so emotional about everything. I asked her plainly if she had intended to put the house only in Liam's name. She said she had considered it, yes. She said that it made sense because Liam had done more for her financially, because he had options and connections, because he would know what to do with the house, while I would probably hang on to it out of sentiment until it dragged me down. I felt heat flood my face, even though she could not see me. I asked if she genuinely believed I was less responsible than the son who only dropped in once a year for a curated visit. She said that this was not about love, it was about practicality. Then she said the line that snapped the last thread. She said that I had always been difficult, and that the house would only become a battleground if it was equally mine. That she was trying to avoid future drama. That if she gave it all to Liam, he could take care of me in ways I could not take care of myself. Take care of me. Like I was a stray that might need feeding. I told her that Dad did not see me that way. That his will had both our names on it. That stripping mine off was not practical, it was erasure. She said that my father had been too soft on me. That he had not understood how hard the world was. That she was the one who had to survive with one income and failed surgeries and bills he had not planned for. That she could not build her old age on my feelings. Then she said that if I had just gone along with the engagement, none of this would have been necessary. That Adam would have taken the weight off, that she would not have had to worry about where I would end up. My stomach turned. She had not just wanted me to marry someone she approved of. She had wanted to plug me into a structure where I could be someone else's responsibility so she could write me out of hers. I told her that I was not signing away anything. She snapped back that I had no legal say until she died. I said that was true, but that I sure as hell had moral say about what she did while she was alive, and that I was not going to sit quietly while she pretended that cutting me out was some form of love. The conversation ended with her saying that if I wanted to fight her on this, then maybe we needed some distance. I said that for once, we agreed on something. After I hung up, I expected to feel victorious, or at least vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. It is a strange thing to realize that your mother sees you as a problem to manage rather than a person to cherish. Stranger still to understand that she is capable of crafting a future without you and calling it peace. That night, Adam came by my apartment. I did not invite him. He buzzed and called my name through the intercom with that familiar mix of apology and persistence I had always secretly admired when it was applied to work or friendships. Now it felt invasive. I let him up because I wanted to end it properly, not through messages and avoidance. He stood in my doorway holding a small bouquet of flowers from the grocery store downstairs, the cheap kind wrapped in plastic. Once, that gesture would have made me soften. Now it just made me tired. He started talking before I even closed the door. He said that he had been thinking a lot, that he knew he had misstepped, that he had only wanted to do right by my family, that he had not realized how controlling they could be. He said that he loved me, that he did not care about the house or the will or any of that he just wanted us. I asked him gently but firmly if he understood why what he did had hurt so much. He said he did. That he should have come to me first. That he should have trusted that I knew what I wanted. Then, without meaning to, he said something that gave him away. He said that when my mother and Liam called, they had painted me as someone fragile, someone on the verge of ruining her own life if no one stepped in. And he had believed them. He said they had told him about my panic attack last year when I lost my second job. About the time I called them crying on the anniversary of Dad's death. About the nights I had stayed over at my mother's because I could not stand being alone. They had taken my most vulnerable moments and used them as arguments in a pitch deck for why someone else needed to take control of my choices. I asked Adam if he had pushed back at all when they framed me as unstable. He admitted that he had not. That part of him had been relieved to have their approval, to be welcomed so warmly into a family. He said that his own family had always been cold, distant, that he had craved that sense of belonging. They had offered him belonging at my expense. I realized then that while Adam had absolutely been wrong, he had also been manipulated. Not in the way a child is manipulated, but in the way someone lonely is when they are finally told they are chosen. It did not excuse it. But it complicated it. He asked if we could try again from scratch, without my family, without their interference. He looked so hopeful, so scared, so earnest. I almost said yes out of habit. Out of fear of starting over. Instead, I told him the truth. I said that maybe, in another life, if he had been the man who knocked on my door with a ring because he knew me, not because my mother had convinced him, I would have said yes. I said that in this life, though, he had made a choice. More than once. He had chosen their version of me over the real one, and I did not know how to trust someone who could be swayed so easily by people who did not even see me clearly. Tears filled his eyes. He said that he was sorry. I said that I believed him. Then I said I still needed him to go. After he left, the silence in my apartment felt heavy but honest. For the first time in days, my phone was quiet. No family group chat notifications. No guilt-laced messages. Just stillness. I slept without dreaming. The next morning, Liam sent a single message. He wrote that Mom was thinking of updating the will officially, that the lawyer would probably call me, and that if I made this difficult, I would be betraying the family and Dad's memory. It was a neat, efficient little text. I stared at it for a long time. This was when I realized the twist I had been avoiding. Up until that point, I had believed I was the one being betrayed. My mother was cutting me out of the house. My brother was siding with her. My boyfriend was co-opted into the control. But there was another betrayal, quieter and uglier, sitting just beneath the surface. My betrayal of myself. Every time I had let them define who I was. Every time I had allowed their narratives to override my own memory. Every time I had gone along to keep the peace, knowing the peace was built on my erasure. The house, the will, the fake engagement, they were symptoms. The real disease was that I had spent years colluding in my own disappearance, smiling and nodding and calling it love. This time, I decided, I would not. What I did next is the part of the story that even I did not see coming. It is the part where I finally used a piece of family power for myself. Not to hurt them. To save me. And it started with a phone call to the same lawyer my mother thought she had quietly enlisted. I asked for an appointment. I said I wanted to talk about alternate ways to honor my father's will. Not by waiting for my mother to have a change of heart. By exercising a right she had counted on me never learning I had. The attorney agreed to meet me the next morning. He didn't know the messy details of my family, but he had that look, the one professionals get when they realize you are coming to them not for legal advice, but for refuge. He ushered me into his office, closed the door gently, and asked how he could help. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I laid out the situation. My mother quietly preparing to remove me from the house. My brother already speaking like it was inevitable. My father's original will including me clearly and explicitly. My family's history of rewriting events to fit whatever narrative benefited them. The attorney listened without interrupting, fingers steepled beneath his chin. When I finished, he exhaled and said the sentence that changed everything. Riley, your mother cannot legally remove you from your father's will without your consent. My heart stopped. He turned his screen so I could see the relevant statute. He went on. Your father named you and your brother as equal beneficiaries of the property in the event of your mother's passing. She is allowed to live there, yes. She is allowed to refinance, yes. But she cannot rewrite the future beneficiaries because the will is specific. She cannot override his instruction because it does not give her that authority. I stared at him. He continued. The only way she could change the inheritance would be if you signed something agreeing to it. Have you signed anything? I shook my head. He nodded. Then your share is secure, he said. No matter what she has told you. No matter what forms she is drafting. No matter what she wants. Secure. A word I had never associated with my family. I felt something warm rise in my chest, a quiet, powerful anger mixed with relief. A sense of being tethered to something real for the first time in years. But the attorney wasn't finished. He said. The bigger problem is this, your mother knows she can't change the will legally. So she's trying to do it socially, emotionally. She's trying to convince everyone, including you, that the house belongs to Liam. And if she can get you to accept that emotionally, she never needs to fight you legally. It hit me like a wave. That was the plan. Erase me socially so they never had to deal with me legally. He watched my face shift and said. If you want, I can draft a letter formally asserting your legal rights as a beneficiary. It would stop any quiet manipulation in its tracks. Your mother would have to acknowledge your place. The idea scared me. Not because it wasn't right, but because it was the first time someone offered me a way to confront my family from a place of authority, not apology. I hadn't realized how much I needed that until it was right in front of me. I said yes. He began typing. A single page. Clear. Formal. Unshakable. My father's words carved into space my mother had tried to erase me from. When I left the office, letter in hand, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was calm. Strangely calm. The kind of calm that comes when you finally stop believing the lies people built around you to make themselves more comfortable. I didn't send the letter right away. Not because I doubted it. Because I wanted to see what my mother and brother would do next. It didn't take long. That evening, my brother texted me. Mom is moving forward with the plan. She says you'll understand one day. Please don't make this harder. The plan. The plan to erase me. Then Adam texted again, saying he hoped we could talk soon, and that he still wanted to fix things. Then my mother sent a long message in the family group chat, not to me privately, but to everyone at once, saying that some decisions were made by grown-ups with long-term vision, and that children didn't always need to understand everything. Children. I was 25. And she had called me a child publicly. My aunt responded with a heart emoji. My cousin responded with agree. My stomach twisted. They weren't just excluding me, they were building a unified front. One where I was the unstable one. The overreacting one. The difficult one. The child. But they didn't know I had something they hadn't counted on. Facts. Paper. A legal record of who I was in this family. Not the Riley they invented. The real one. 2 days later, Liam knocked on my door again. This time, I didn't open right away. I asked what he wanted through the door. He said he wanted to talk like adults. I almost laughed at the irony. I opened the door a crack. He stepped inside like he owned the place. He said that Mom was stressed and that if I just cooperated, everything could go smoothly. He said that Mom wanted to streamline things and needed us to sign preliminary agreements. He said that it wasn't a big deal, just paperwork. He didn't know that I already knew the truth. That paperwork was designed to convince me to relinquish my claim. I asked calmly if he had seen the will. He paused. He said Mom told him the will was simple. I said it was clear and precise. I said Dad had left the house to both of us. He shifted uncomfortably. He said Dad didn't understand how things would turn out. I said Dad understood exactly who we were. He said Mom was just trying to create stability. I said stability for whom? He didn't answer. I walked to my kitchen counter and picked up the attorney's letter. I didn't hand it to him. Not yet. I just held it. He stared at it like he already knew what was inside, even if he didn't know the details. His whole posture changed. Defensive. Irritated. Cornered. He said, "You're going to make this ugly." I said, "No. Mom did that. You helped." He clenched his jaw. He said that I was acting like a victim. That I was misinterpreting everything. That I was blowing things up again. That I always had to make things dramatic. I let him finish. Then I said the first sentence that truly hit him. "You were counting on me not knowing my rights." He froze. Because it was true. And he knew it. I held up the letter. His eyes darted to it like it was a weapon, because it was. Not a violent one. A truthful one. I said, "I will not be erased from Dad's will. I will not be written out of this family quietly. I will not sign anything you and Mom create behind my back. And I will not let you call this love. Because love doesn't require someone to disappear." He swallowed hard. A long moment passed. Then he said something I didn't expect. He said, "Mom needs the house." I blinked. He went on. "She needs to sell it. She's drowning in debt. She didn't want you to know. She didn't want to burden you." The truth stung. Not because she was struggling, but because she had chosen secrecy over honesty. Manipulation over vulnerability. I asked him why she didn't just tell me. He said, "Because she didn't trust you." The word sliced into me. I asked him if she trusted him. He said yes. I asked him whether he had earned that trust. He didn't answer. For once, he had no script. He stood in my living room, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. Then he whispered, "Riley, please don't fight us." I said, "I'm not fighting you. I'm protecting myself." He stared at me for a long time. Then he said something that will never leave me. He said, "Mom said you wouldn't have the strength for this." I felt something ignite in my chest. A slow, steady, grounded fire. I said, "Then she was wrong." His face twisted, confusion, frustration, a flicker of respect he'd never shown me before. He reached out for the letter. I pulled it back. I said, "Not yet." He frowned. "Why not?" "Because I want her to hear it from me." The next morning, I walked into my mother's house unannounced. She was at the kitchen table with bills spread out in front of her and a calculator in her hand. She looked up, startled, then annoyed. She asked what I was doing there. I said I needed to talk. She sighed dramatically and said she had a busy day. I placed the attorney's letter on the table. She reached for it with a trembling hand. She read the first paragraph. Her face drained of color. She read the second. Her hand began to shake. She read the final line. "Any attempt to alter the beneficiaries without written consent may be considered coercive manipulation and will not hold legal force." She slammed the letter down. She said, "You went behind my back." I said, "So did you." She stood up. Her voice rose. She said she had done everything for this family. That she had sacrificed everything. That I was heartless. That I was selfish. That I didn't understand her pain. That Liam cared. That I didn't. I let her speak. Then I said gently, "Mom, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest." Tears filled her eyes. The first real tears I'd seen from her in years. She whispered, "I thought if I asked for help, you would think I failed." I felt my anger drain just enough for empathy to slip in. I said, "You didn't fail. You hid. That's different." She sank into the chair. Then she said, "I didn't know how to ask you to save me." I sat beside her. I said, "You don't have to ask me to disappear to prove you're strong. You can ask me to show up." She broke then. Quietly. Softly. The way people break when someone finally names the thing they couldn't say. For the first time, she said, "I'm scared. Not angry. Not manipulative. Not superior. Just scared." And for the first time I wasn't the child in the room. I was the adult. The one who understood compassion didn't require self-erasure. We didn't solve everything that day. We didn't magically become healed. But she folded the letter carefully, with respect, not fear, and placed it in a drawer. And she said, "Okay, Riley. Let's figure this out, together." That word, together, was the real inheritance I had wanted all along. As for Adam, he reached out 2 more times. Once with a long message. Once with a voice note. Both full of apologies and should-haves and if-onlys. I read them. I didn't respond. Not because I was cruel. But because healing requires windows, not anchors. He had been an anchor. Weight, not air. I wasn't drowning anymore. As for Liam, we're civil. Not close. Not yet. Maybe one day. He apologized too, awkwardly, defensively, with disclaimers tucked in between. The way older brothers apologize when they realize the younger sister they underestimated has become someone who can stand up to them without flinching. He told Mom she owed me honesty. He told me he owed me listening. It wasn't perfect, but it was the first time we were trying. And me? I didn't disappear. I didn't shrink. I didn't sign anything. I didn't let them rewrite me. I stayed. But I stayed as myself, not as the daughter they tried to sculpt. And Dad's will? It stands. My name in ink. Permanent. Protected. Just like the version of me I'm learning to rebuild. One choice at a time. With my own hands.